everybody, it's Star Wars Slasher Dude 2000, and tonight, I know it's a bit late, but we will be doing the, Screen 2 review. Sorry, again, it's a day late, and Kevin will be giving you the synopsis.
Yes, so Scream 2 takes place a year after the original film. It takes place at Windsor College, and there is a premiere for Stab, which is the movie event, the movie of what happened in the first film. So, in this movie, they made a movie of the original events, and there are a new set of killers or killer. We find out later, and it is basically similar. Those that survived from the first film return to this film, and there are some new characters as well, but they are basically plagued upon by copycat killers, and that's the general synopsis. I have some other thoughts about the symbolism within the story, but I'll let you get to the facts first.
Okay, Scream was made in 1997. It was directed by Wes Craven. The production was done by Wes Craven, Kathy Conrad, and Marina Madeline. Sadly, they got rid of... Hold on, let me go to Screen 1 notes. They got rid of... Carrie Wood, which I think was a big part of the original. It was written again by Kevin Williamson. The music was done again by Marco Beltrami. The film locations were... You know what? I'm taking this off now. Film locations were, and I did really a lot of information on this. Rialto Theater, South Pasadena, California. That was the movie theater. Sadly, the movie theater is closed down now. It's at... Oh, and 2186 East Prairie Street, Altadena, California, was Omega Beta Zeta House. Also seen in Matilda, if you guys have seen that movie, which sadly I've only seen parts. Agnes Scott College at 141 East College Avenue. It's in Decatur, Georgia. That was the college used for Windsor. 350 South Grand Avenue, Pasadena, California, was the house party. Royce Drive, Los Angeles, California, was the house, the main part of the campus. 5730 Bush Driver, Malibu, California, was a part of it, and huge thanks for globalfilmlocations.net for the information. Jada Raquette Smith was Maureen Evans. Omar Epps as Philip Stevens, which all you House fans should know. He played Dr. Foreman in House MD. Nev Campbell comes back as Sidney Prescott. David Arquette is back as Dwight Riley or Dewey. Courtney Cox comes back as Gail Weathers. Jamie Kennedy comes back as Randy Meeks. Elias Nell as Haley McDaniel, aka Sidney's new best friend and roommate. Liev Schroeder comes back as Conweary, which we all know we only saw him as a, we only saw him
on the newsfeed in the first film.
Right. But now we actually get to see his character move around in this. We have Laurie Metcalf as Debbie Salt, or Mrs. Loomis. Spoilers alert. Jerry O'Connell as Derek Feldman, Sydney's new boyfriend. Timothy Olyphant as Mickey Altier. And on to the kill stats.
Yeah, just really quickly, but I just realized a lot of this cast had a lot of people that had either been in horror before or went on to horror. Jerry O'Connell, when he was a kid, he was in The Stand, I believe, which was a Stephen King movie. Sarah Michelle Gellar, she's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, for many years. Timothy Olyphant, I don't know about earlier, but later he went on to do The Crazies, which was another great horror film. So, and I think Joshua Jackson, who was one of the students, also did a horror movie later on, but I can't think of the title off the top of my head. So
I forgot one. The character that plays Cece was from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh yeah, that's Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah.
Oh, right.
All right. This is, as Randy mentions in the rules for a sequel, it's bigger, and this film is definitely no different. This film is a bigger film, even in the kill count and carnage candy, as he says. We've got 3 multi-stab kills. So that means 3 or more stabs to kill a person. So we have 3 of those. We have 3 death by shootings. We have 1 impalement, 1 throat slit, 1 death by fall, 1 head stab for a total of 10 kills. There were, now this is great, at least 21 stabs. There was 3 menacing phone calls, 1 menacing instant message, 15 gunshots. Both the stabs and the gunshots are at least 5 to 10 more than they were in the previous film. I can check my notes, but I know the stabs went up by at least 5 to 7. So definitely a bigger film, even in the stats.
Right, on to the favorite kills. Mine, honestly, and this is a huge surprise, it even surprised me, my favorite was Randy Meeks gets brutalized. I mean, it's amazing they killed off one of the main characters in the first movie in such a gruesome way. I mean, if you watch the film, just... ugh.
Yeah, it comes right out of the blue. It is absolutely a brutal kill. My only problem with it was I feel it came too early in the film. It would have, for me, it would have been better to have that type of a kill in the third act. So that whole scene where they're on the stage, that's, I think, the best place where Randy could have been killed. But that's just a minor complaint. My favorite kill, darn, I don't know. I don't have really a favorite kill. I do like the opening. I thought that was kind of a fresh way to, because Scream is all about being a commentary on the horror franchise, the slasher genre, and also kind of what is with our pop culture. And I just thought it was kind of a very interesting way to open the film, like with a film premiere. So I like the opening kills. I mean, everyone's all in the moment. She's being stabbed, brutalized, Jada Pinkett Smith. And so, anyway, so I'd say that the opening portion of the film, I like that.
I mean, I could agree with that, but it was just, you barely see it. I mean, all you see is her hand get bloody and then just the stabs. It was meh.
Oh, the cop getting impaled. That was pretty great.
Speaking of that, Andrew Richards, as my least favorite kill, gets impaled with pipe. if you guys actually watch, and a lot of us have said this on other channels, it looked so cheap. I mean, you could literally tell it was a dummy with a pipe impaled in its head.
I didn't catch that, but anyways, I thought it was great. So, to each their own.
Right, Oh. Funniest kill. Phil Stevens gets caught eavesdropping.
Yeah.
Just... I couldn't tell if it was his head or his ear, but I'm praying it was his ear.
I just found that kill, like, very implausible. Like, the killer would have had to know precisely where the head was, and that's a large piece of wood, or and then to have the force to be able to get. Anyways, I'm overanalyzing again, but I was just like, how the heck did he get it dead center into that into the head? So,
but it was a lot different from what we've seen before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, on to the rest of the facts. The plot and the killers were leaked. Sadly, if you guys hadn't heard or weren't around during that time, yes, someone accidentally leaked the characters, leaked the plot, so they had to make a lot of changes. And a lot of times, the actors didn't even get the script until when they were actually supposed to read and act.
So there are a set of killers? Does it say, or?
I believe it said there were supposed to be 3 killers, but then they changed it to 2 because, it was supposed to be Billy's mother, Derek, and there was one more. I mean, Mickey and one more. But they had to cut it out because everyone already knew, and they did call it I guess they called it a trick, even though it was the real script. And if you guys hadn't known, Kevin Williamson actually had already planned to make a sequel from the start. During the time he was bidding his original Scream movie, he actually also bidded a list of ideas for sequels.
Yes, I actually we're getting into a territory that I've actually really want to get into, and that is that the Scream films, that includes all 4 of the films, follow something that is rare in horror and is very common in science fiction and fantasy, and that's a little thing called the monomyth. Do you know what the monomyth is?
No, actually I don't.
Your jaw's dropped, so I'll tell you. No, the monomyth is the hero's journey that we hear about, in folklore and things like that. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of Hercules. The play that Sidney was a part of is a story that has the hero's journey. In modern films, things like The Matrix and Star Wars have the hero's journey, and I'll definitely get into this in more detail in our other reviews for Scream 3 and 4 because they hit on other aspects of the hero's journey. But suffice it to say, this is what's really interesting. We're seeing like an evolution to Sidney Prescott's character. She's not just the same old final girl. Like, the first shot we get of her, she's already screening her calls. She's more prepared this time. And so that is one thing that I absolutely picked up this time I saw it. And I could see that Kevin Williamson had a roadmap and a plan. Now, unfortunately, he didn't write part 3, but he did return to part 4. And when we get to those films, I think it's going to tell in our reviews.
Alright, on another note, there were many ideas for the title, like Scream Again, Scream Louder, and Scream the Sequel, which I'm glad they went with Scream 2. Those are as terrible as, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I still know what you did last summer. I'll always know what you did last summer. My God. Tori Spelling played Sydney in Stab because of the joke Sydney made in the first film. O'Connelly auditioned for a role of Derek by performing the scene where the character sings, "I think I love you."
I actually like that scene. I know it's kind of awkward for a horror film to have but he sings off key, which for most folks, people would say, okay, that would be the reason why I don't like it. But realistically, if you're going to sing to somebody you like, and you know what happens when you're romantic, all of us are good singers, you know, not all of us have a good voice. So it made it more endearing. It made it more believable that, you know, it was nice. It fit kind of, you know, for the first half of the film, it seems like, you know, Sydney's story is like headed for a happy ending, and obviously the second half of the film changes. It gets darker, but it's just kind of nice to see after everything Sydney and her friends have gone through to kind of see a little bit of levity, you know.
Right. Mickey was Othello's first role ever, and personal opinion time. After listening to each song in the soundtrack, I have to say, it's not as good as the first movie. I mean, God. I mean, I get these are supposed to be actual songs from the 90s you'd hear at a college, but God, have some taste, 90s kids.
Yeah. I think you're going to be a little bit happier with the Scream 3 soundtrack when we get to that. I think you'll be happier. For me, I like Du Sol. That's one of the bands that's on the soundtrack. When I was in high school, when I was in school, you know, that's really popular. So, but yeah, it's a generational thing. There's some aspect and to modern audience, and yeah, I could see the music now being good to today's audiences.
Right.
You look like you wanted to kill me.
I kinda do. Cece's name is Casey, just like the first victim of the first movie, Casey Cooper. Gail gets hit. Getting hit is a lot less impactful than the first. I mean, literally, she got slapped instead of punched, like in the first movie.
Yeah.
I love how Gail is finally getting her time in the light. Literally, Debbie Salt annoys the shit out of her, and it's a little reminiscent of how she was so annoying in the first movie towards Sydney.
Yes. Gail is another one of those characters that as we get into the film, and she's very much a certain type of character. There's certain attributes to her that stick with her throughout, but she definitely becomes a lot less cold-hearted. She warms up to you throughout. So.
Right, and my God, I have to take this mask off. Again, it's very hot. I'm in a basement. Derek literally pulls a Top Gun. I mean, if you've seen that movie, spoiler alert, I believe it's Falcon? No, Maverick. Maverick. Who goes up to that girl and just sings. I can't remember the song, but it's just so sweet. And ladies and gentlemen, on to my favorite part of this movie, the favorite phrase or quote. Then why don't you show your face, you fucking coward? My pleasure! The conversation between Ghostface and Sidney at the, I believe, during the first conversation they have.
Oh yeah, in the sorority house, right?
Right, and I love the foreshadowing of the play rehearsal. Basically, all the effects happening around her, it actually foreshadows how Sidney attacks Mrs. Loomis, and it explains how, I mean, it literally showed we were gonna come back to the film theater, the theater, sooner or later.
Yes, I'm glad you brought the play up as a part that you really enjoyed, because the scene between the director and Sidney, their conversation, I just felt like it was like there's a lot of symbolism in there, and there's a quote that I actually wrote down to prepare for this review, where he tells her the battle for this was fought a forum of art, and there's a lot of truth to that. You know, art is definitely a very it's an expression of our soul. Art is a way for us to express the things that we cannot put into to words or into action, so we put them into art, and it has a piece of our soul. But anyways, that whole scene was really beautiful, and as you mentioned, when we get later on, when we get to her actually rehearsing, it's absolutely a moment of foreshadow. So,
right. So what technically did you think of the movie?
So we rated the first film a 9, right? Or a 9.5, somewhere in that area.
I believe it was a 9.
Up until the third act, I wanted to say that this movie is a 10. There's a few parts in the third act that I feel are a little sloppy, like Cotton has his hands covered in Dewey's blood. He should have gone to the cops, right? But then we don't see him for about 10 or 15 minutes. Then he shows up again to save Sidney, and it's just like, where were you for that whole time? Where so there's moments in the third act where it's just like happenstance, like, oh, that just seems kind of convenient, but still, much good stuff throughout the film that it's bigger, it's bolder, it takes more risks. You know, it's just a very ambitious film. It plays on the very themes that were in the first film, and so I have a hard time being negative towards it. So even though I have some minor complaints about the way things were handled in Andy's death in the third act, I still want to give this like a very solid, rating. What about you?
Well, before we actually get to the rating, I do have some fun facts. It's actually said that the actor of Stu in the first movie actually came back in the second movie as an extra in the background. Oh. And, there was... Oh, I actually have an even more favorite part of mine of the movie. The whole sequel discussion during the beginning, the first act. Just... we can't agree.
Oh, the classroom.
Yes. We can't agree. Jaws had a pretty bad sequel. Crap. I can't remember the rest.
Yeah, I know they bring up The Godfather Part 2.
That,
They bring up
oh my god, I love The Godfather Part 2. I mean, yes, we lose the graces of... Michael. We learn the story of Michael, but we lose the main Godfather that we've lived through for the first movie.
I've actually other films. Oh.
But thank God they did not mention Freddy's Revenge. That just terrible. A terrible sequel to such a good movie.
Absolutely. Went through it, Friday the 13th franchise recently had quite, a couple of sequels there that were just god off. So.
But this movie was a sequel that went great. I mean, even a lot of people even say this was way better than the first.
Yeah. What I'd love to know is when Randy and Dewey are in the, I think they're talking about the rules for the sequel. About what if you don't want your film, like if this is not part of a planned trilogy but part of a franchise, never do this, and then it gets interrupted. I'm like, I wonder what that rule was.
But I'm pretty sure he does not mention it until the third movie, when sadly he only comes back in a video.
Yes, but his character is very important, so.
Yes, so I'd rate this an 8.5.
Oh, is that, you're giving it a lower score than the first film?
I mean, yeah, the first film, it was legendary. This one, it's a legendary sequel, not as good as Empire Strikes Back, but it does give us life. It's something that, I mean, even though it came out a year after the original, it was still really good.
Yeah. Like I said, I had my problems with it, but I'm going to have to give it a 9.5, with, of course, the asterisk that, like I mentioned, that there are some problems with the film, but the film took, a lot of risks, and, when you do that, sometimes they don't always pay off, but I appreciate the fact that they went big, they hit hard, so.
Yep, so this has been our review on Scream 2. We hope you enjoy it, and stay tuned next week for Scream 3, the review. Hopefully, I'm praying that Cameron gets back to us on the request to possibly do a collaboration on that video, since Cody is still, if you remember, he is doing the Scream series as well.
Yeah. Interesting timing for him to do that.
Yep. So, guys, check out his channel. Keep watching, and I wonder if you guys noticed anything different about this video. We decided to do a bit of an experiment from the rest of the videos to see if you like this style or if you'd rather us do the original way. So let us know down in the comments. Don't forget, those who are just joining us, to like, subscribe, and comment your opinions. And any final words?
This was filmed in Stabovision.
Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, look out for the sequels. They might just be better than the original.